Hey, how's it going, guys? Good? Okay, that's good. The last time you've tuned into these videos, we have made a Florida seal that we turned into a Florida flag. We made our own personal seal, which we turned into our own personal flag. What I wanted to do today was kind of a patriotic design based on the American flag. Now, the American flag is composed of 13 stripes representing the first 13 colonies. They alternate 7 red, 6 white. Then there's a union, the square up in the corner, which houses 50 white stars, representing the 50 states that we have now. What we want to do today is kind of make our own abstract design inspired by the American flag. So the first thing I want you to do is get a piece of paper. I don't really care what size you use. I'm hoping it's white because we will be coloring these American colors next week. What I want you to do is design or draw 13 lines representing the 13 stripes going across your paper. Now, if you were in my classroom talking with your friends, kids always lose count of their lines. So go ahead, draw these as fast as you can, put them wherever you want. They can go across left to right, top to bottom, top to right, bottom to left. It's entirely up to you. Just don't lose track of your 13 lines because mom and dad do not want to count those for you. After you draw your 13 lines wherever you want, go ahead and put 50 stars. Nope, just kidding. 50 is way too many. This picture is going to get very, very complicated if you do that. How about we do 1 star on our design equals 10 stars on the American flag. Go ahead and just draw 5 stars. Draw them big, draw them small, draw them whatever size you want. I recommend big. Fill in all those little shapes in red, white, and blue. Now this is a big, tricky puzzle problem because you don't want red to touch another red part. They can touch in the corners diagonally, but you don't want red beside red or white beside white or blue beside blue. A lot of times what will happen is they will come in contact anyway. So what you want to do maybe is use 2 different blues, like a light blue and a dark blue. That's entirely up to you. But go ahead, color in your shapes, red, white, and blue. I guess leave the white parts white, obviously. You can use crayons, colored pencils, markers. You can draw this big, you can draw this small. It really doesn't matter to me. Just make sure you hold on to it and don't throw it away. I would love to see it. Okay, that's it for this week. See you next time. Bye. Okay, kids, we're back for another pro tips. Last time, I drew this turkey using the light blue pencil, my non-photo blue pencil, to draw like the skeleton. I'm gonna call that like the first draft. You tighten things up with a gray pencil, using my metaphors, the muscles that go on top of your skeleton. We're gonna use a variety of pens today to give us a variety of line weights. Line weight is how heavy or light your line weight is. If it's a heavy line, it's a very thick line. If it's a light line, that means it's a very skinny line. All of these pens have different sizes that give you different line weights. So let's get started. Oh no. What I have right here are some of my favorite micron pens. They come in a variety of sizes. I've been using these for more than 20 years. Oh, that makes me feel old. There is nothing wrong with uniform line weight in a drawing. I think it looks great if you are writing letters, like drawing a sign. I think it's great for logos. But if you really want your picture to pop and have a little more life and a little more energy, you're going to want to use different line weights throughout the whole picture. The first thing I want to show you is the line weight of a Sharpie. Now Sharpies are neat because they have a point. A Sharpie marker can make a skinny line if you hold it straight up and down and use the tip, or a Sharpie can make a thicker line if you hold it at an angle. Or it can just make the same size line depending on how dull it is. My next pen is a Micron number 3. This number 3 gives me the thickest line when I hold it sideways. Next up is the number 2. As you guess, it's a little bit thinner. The number 1 is smaller than that. Next we get the 08, 08. It's kind of like 0.8 compared to the number 1. The 08 makes a thinner line, And then the 05, the 03, the 02, and the 01 make very thin lines. The very last pen I have is a 005. This is great for drawing whiskers or microscopic pictures, adding details that many people probably won't see. This bad boy is my favorite as far as line weight goes. It is a brush pen. The ink is in the gray handle, and it comes out of the bristles. A brush pen is neat because it rarely runs out of ink. You never have to refill it while you're drawing. And it has a cap on the end of the brush, so you don't really have to clean your brush when you're done using it. Depending on how hard or how light you press down, gives you thick lines, thick and thin within the same line. I think I'm going to use mostly that for today's turkey feathers. So here we go. Last week I talked to you about giving your client or your friend options. So the first thing I'm going to do is trace this cartoon panicked looking turkey's eyes. I'm going to make his sweat drops look more cartoonish. Now I'm going to work on the more realistic turkey. The more realistic turkey, I'm going to trace and add better details with my pens. Now to get a better variety of line weight, I'm going to move on to my brush pen. This brush pen is great for making a bunch of different patterns, a bunch of different sizes. I find that it's easier for me to drag my hand down, which means I got to spin my paper a lot. Dragging my hand down is great to go from thick to thin lines very easily and very quickly. I'm not sure right now if I want to trace the Camp Longbeard sign with a regular pen, one of my microns that gives me a uniform line, or if I want to change up the size of the picture frame by using my brush pen. You know what? I'm having such a good time with this brush pen. Let me go ahead and keep doing the brush pen. With the brush pen, I also want to add little knots and little grooves and textures and grain so that this sign looks wooden, even though it's a white piece of paper with black ink on it. I will go ahead and use that for the turkey tracks. Now, one thing I do want to do is I want the letters to kind of look like the same line weight. So I will be using, if I can find it, the number 3 pen. And I will just go ahead and trace those letters and hopefully do a slightly better job with this third draft than I did with the blue line and the gray pencil last time. After I've done this, this is my next trick: erasing the pencil lines. There's nothing wrong with keeping them. It just makes the picture look a little grungier than it needs to. And you can erase with anything. You can erase with the little eraser that comes with the pencil, but that's going to take a very long time. Some cheaper pencils might just smear your pencil lines, so you got to be really careful about what kind of pencil you use and what kind of eraser you use. So I'm going to try this pink pearl. A lot of schools use these. They usually come in 3 packs at the store. These are good for erasing bigger surface area. One that I really like is this white eraser. It's a little bit softer. You don't want a very abrasive eraser because that might erase your ink drawing, and then you will have wasted a lot of time. Nothing's more tragic than the first time you do that and you erase a good ink drawing with a bad eraser. That's why I'm probably not going to be using this Book Fair eraser. This Book Fair eraser is fun to play with. It's fun to buy, but it's not a great eraser. You know what, let me try it. That's not too bad. The eraser I really wanted to introduce you to was this kneaded gray eraser. Kneaded, not like you need an eraser, N-E-E-D. No, this is K-N-E-A-D. The K is silent. It's kneaded because it's a self-cleaning eraser. When you're done using it, you just pinch it and pull it and push it back together again, and you can keep using it. Unfortunately, this has been buried in my art supplies for a very long time, and it looks like it's not going to unwrap. Okay, maybe I'll just use a little piece of it. Here we go. Erase, erase, pinch it together, knead it. Okay, you know what? Forget it. Let's just use the white one. It's very important that you use an ink that is permanent. Like I said, you don't want to find yourself in a position where you're erasing your line art. That would be very bad. Okay, here's what it looks like when it's inked. And here's what it looks like scanned and cleaned up in the computer. Okay, see you next week. Bye. Bonus!
Bonus points!
Oh man, bonus points. Aha. This is a quick, easy thing you can work on. I've seen it done online. It is tracing shadows. I can't do this. It is tracing shadows. Yay. Now, a quick disclaimer. I came out here to do this earlier this afternoon at around lunch. It turns out that the sun is directly overhead, and it makes these shadows look like puddles underneath your characters. So right now, it is currently 4:30 in the afternoon. So one problem is you can only do this on a sunny day. Another problem is you can't do this directly after lunch because, he's gone forever. So you can't do this directly after lunch because their shadows are not long enough. I recommend maybe 10 o'clock in the morning, like I'm doing right now, 4:30 in the afternoon. Now you don't necessarily just have to do this with toys. You could do this with anything that you see in your yard, anything that casts a shadow. You can do it on paper. You can do it on a long piece of paper and just put stuff in a row. You can trace your friends. You can trace your brothers and sisters. I guess your friends are still under quarantine. But you can do things like that if you're bored. Okay, that's it for this week's bonus points. See you next week.